flash, bright like a roaring fight. Crypto dreams under stadium lights. Sweat and fire, hearts ignite. Evening sparks will fade. We'll let the Ginch replay.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is November 18th. Yes, it's the 18th. Welcome to another edition of Early Evening Sports Buffet with the Ginch. I am Ginch. Thanks to the Ginch Quartet there for bringing me in. He is in the green room, but I've got to give him a proper introduction. I do it with all my football. That's right. A lot of college football fans will recognize this as the University of Colorado fight song. Not really the season that they were hoping for. Post Shedeur Sanders and post Travis Hunter. Let's bring him on. There he is, the voice of your Colorado Buffaloes, Mark Johnson. Mark, thanks for joining the program.
You bet, man. That is music to my ears right there when I hear that song. That gets me going.
So let's get into it. Not the season they were hoping for.
Nope.
Post Travis, post Shedeur. I had to go and take a look at the stats. Offensively, they're not good. Defensively, they might be even worse. And I was looking at the Big 12 team stats. Mark, where has it gone wrong?
Well, that's one heck of a question right there, and I wish I could give you a great answer. You know, if I could answer all those questions, I'd be the one with the $10.5 million contract, right? I'll say this: the quarterback decision and the accepting the transfer of Caden Salter didn't quite work out the way they thought it would, and I think that was one area that they struggled in. The offensive line actually played relatively well early. In the last couple of weeks, that has not been the case. And then on the defensive side, last year, I'd always say about the Buffs defense last year in 2024 that it was not an overly stout defense, but they did two things very well. They led the Big 12 in sacks. They got to the quarterback, and they were outstanding at turning the ball over. And they've done neither of those this season. And so the defense had its issues all year long, and it just kind of steamrolled from there. But, you think about it, they opened up the season with a heck of a college football game against Georgia Tech. They took BYU to the wire, took TCU to the wire, didn't play well down at Houston in that game. So played some very good football teams very well for much of the season. Then here about 3 weeks ago, I got the last 3 games, 4 weeks ago, since we're coming off a bye right now, the bottom fell out of this thing, and they haven't been able to right the ship the last month or so.
Yeah, I mean, Utah hammered them. Arizona hammered them.
Yep.
They played better against West Virginia, but I thought that was a game they could have won just based on the fact that West Virginia hasn't been what West Virginia the fans thought they would be under Rich Rod. So, again, like you said, they played Georgia Tech tough, beat Delaware, obviously, who is taking a step up.
Yep.
The Houston game got kind of squirrely. They're late. Look, they beat Wyoming. Like you said, they played BYU tough. TCU, they played them kind of tough. Beat Iowa State. I didn't see that one coming. And like you said, the last 3 weeks, the bottom has sort of fallen out. Where are Colorado fans across the country, especially there in Boulder? How are they with Deion Sanders right now?
I think they're fine with Deion. One of the things that I think is important to understand around the country, not just this isn't a Colorado-centric comment. When you think about what college football is and how much of what we've done now is based on transfer portal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you miss on a couple of guys, you can have some problems. Right, it's kind of the John Calipari rule of basketball, right, where he was going one and dones all the time, and then you get to a year where you missed on a couple of guys, and all of a sudden you aren't what you thought you were going to be. And I think that's true in college athletics. And I'll tell you this: here's the other thing that I think is really an interesting study right now. When you've got, I'm getting ready. I'm sitting here in my office. And I'm getting ready right now for the game with Arizona State this weekend. I'm looking at going down their roster. I'm not picking on them, but they've got multiple guys that have been at 3-4 institutions by the time it's all said and done. The one thing about putting a team together like that, as everyone is right now, you don't build anything. You put it together very quickly and hope that it works out. So when things go well, fantastic for all of us. When it doesn't go well, there's no relationships to fall back on. And I wonder about, the cohesiveness and the strength, the tensile strength of what a team is in those circumstances. Because when it starts to go south on you, this isn't my institution. I'm going someplace else next year anyway. And I don't have the buy-in. I don't have the blood and sweat and tears that you normally have when you go to a program and you stay there 4 or 5 years. And so I think there's a few of those different things that probably contribute to what happened in Colorado this year.
Yeah, and I'll point to Indiana because Kurt Cignetti is going to run out of James Madison players. At what I mean? At some point, he's going to have to start from scratch again.
Right.
So, look, this season's sort of been a wash for Colorado. You think Dion can keep dipping into the transfer portal and putting together the team that he eventually wants? I know he brought in, I think, Warren Sapp, like other players who are former players, know how to win, have been around those kind of cultures. So I think the patience still needs to be there with Dion. But again, I knew that Colorado would take a step back this year, but I don't think with the way these last couple of weeks have gone, I don't think that that's what Colorado had in mind by taking a step back.
No, not at all. And I understood. Regardless of what's happening with Shador in Cleveland, he was a great college quarterback. And
Right.
you've got the 4 or 5 guys that were wide receivers, including the Heisman Trophy winner in the NFL. There was great talent there. And Shador was a magician with that. And Travis and the guys made great plays. And so it was an entertaining team to watch. And so I knew you'd take a step back in that regard. And then early on, when you're losing some close games, like, well, okay, this is what we thought they'd be. I thought this was going to be a bowl team. I thought they were in a 6-7, maybe an 8-win team, depending on if to get a bounce or two here and there. And going through the early portions of the season, that's what it looked like to me. And I thought that's where they were going to be. And okay, this is a transitionary year. Julian Lewis is here. Is he going to get some playing time this year? What's that going to look like? And he didn't get playing time early in the season. Now, of course, he's the starter for the remainder of the campaign. And so I think there's excitement that builds off of that. So you ask about how CU fans are with Prime right now. Certainly, this is disappointing for everybody, but they see Juju out there and they think, okay, he looked pretty good last week. He looked like he belonged out there in terms of how he handled himself, and so there's some excitement building about him, and they're kind of excited to see what's going to happen. Okay, this weekend against Arizona State, how does Juju play? The following week, the last game of the season against Kansas State, does he continue to grow? Does he show some things out there? And I think if he kind of shows us something from a fan standpoint, I think everyone's on board. They're all excited about it and can't wait to see how you build around an exciting young quarterback.
I've been following everything like week to week throughout the landscape of college football, and I thought that if Colorado could have pulled the one off against BYU, and they could have somehow found a way to maybe beat TCU, or if they could have, I don't know, played against Houston, that it might have been a little bit of a different season, especially that game against BYU, because I really thought that they were going to win that particular game.
Yeah, they very much had a chance to do so. And then, that's what's a little bit head-scratching about this season for me is the competitive ball games you're talking about there. Go through the list of them, Georgia Tech and TCU, even though TCU scored a late touchdown to separate a little bit in the last few seconds. But BYU was one of those games. And you went, okay, well, they're right there with very good football teams. I think I haven't checked here since we hit the bye, but I know going to the West Virginia game, I think Colorado by win percentage, you played the second toughest schedule in America. And so I knew it was a very good schedule. And they came close to a number of games. And so you're feeling okay about things, not ecstatic about things, but you're okay with things. But what really was the head scratcher was how things went against Utah and then Arizona. Now, you can go into Utah, what Kyle Whittingham has done, as physical as that program is, that can happen. Although it was ugly, make no mistake about it, that can happen. You figured coming home against Arizona, which is a fine football team. They're not a top-level team. You thought, okay, you come home, you win that ball game, you feel okay about yourself. You still got the bowl possibility sitting out there. But then you get your breaks beaten off by Arizona at home. And that's really where I think from a fan standpoint, everyone thought, what's going on here? And I don't think I can give you a solid answer as to why they had two just horrible games like that and bounce back and, play against a West Virginia team that's fine as well on the road. And that's always a tough place to play. And you come out in the losing end there. But yeah, those two outliers there with Utah and Arizona, I can't explain. I'm not sure anybody has given a real solid explanation as to what happened.
What are you looking for these last couple of weeks? Obviously, they got to play Arizona State at home this week. And again, Thanksgiving weekend, they play Kansas State. Look, I picked Kansas State to make college football playoff, and I was wrong. They are an average football team at best. They get Arizona State at home, obviously, winnable game as far as I'm concerned. And then they go on the road at Kansas State. As far as I'm concerned, that's a winnable game. If they win these, at least it's a positive. If they can finish out the season winning these last 2 weeks, it's a positive going on into the offseason.
Well, without question. Now, do they have to win both of those? I don't know at this point, whether there's great value moving forward if they won both of those games. What I think you want to see right now, you want to see a motivated football team. You want to see a team that's playing hard with energy. You want to see a team that's competitive, and you want to see Julian Lewis continue to develop. And I think that says a lot moving forward, right? We've all seen teams at the end of the year, things kind of go south on them. All of a sudden, everyone's sacking the bats and ready to go home. And that's what you don't want to see. You want to see a team that's dialed in and they're focused right now. Everyone I've talked to continues to claim that's the case. The proof will be in the pudding, obviously, on Saturday night at Folsom Field. But I think if they're competitive, they play hard, they go nose to nose with a couple of, solid football teams in Arizona State and K-State. And Julian shows more of what we saw, almost 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago now against West Virginia, because, that was the thing about that game. We didn't know what we'd see from Juju, but I'm telling you, he looks like he belongs out there. He's been coached very well coming up through youth football and all the things his dad did with him. And you can see that. There's a presence. I mean, that he's got the arm. It comes out on time. It comes out on target. He knows what he's looking at. He doesn't have, although he did it a couple of times, for the most part, he's stepping up in the pocket, manipulating the pocket a little bit, trying to find guys down. When he does peel out, the eyes are, he reminds me of Shedeur in that regard. Every time Shedeur would leave and that was always a criticism against Shedeur, that he'd leave the pocket and take off, but the eyes were always downfield. He was looking to make a play. And so we saw that from Julian. I think there was a lot to come away from Morgantown with, feeling good about what that young quarterback looked like to me. And you give him a couple more games under his belt, gain some more snaps out there, get him motivated for a great offseason. He puts on some strength and some size and some knowledge over the offseason, studying everything, and gets ready to come out then in his second season for the Buffaloes and really show something. I think that's what you're hoping from here the last couple of weeks.
Before I let you go here, I mean, obviously the third installment of the college football playoff rankings will be coming out. And I've been picking people's brains across the country about this. Mark, again, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I wish it would have stayed the way it was a long time ago. But look, that's just the day and age we live in with transfer portal, NIL, XYZ. I know it's money-driven. But I propose to the college football powers that be, we should get rid of the AP poll. We should get rid of the coaches poll. We should let the season play. If the publications, Mark, want to come out with their preseason rankings, Street and Smith, Athlon, Phil Steele, great.
Yeah.
But get rid of the coaches poll, get rid of the AP poll, because they don't mean anything anymore. They change week to week. The people that put those out don't really watch college football religiously. I say get rid of them, play the season, and then maybe the first week in November, let the college football playoff committee come out with their rankings, and we just do away with all of that. I don't know what you think.
Well, there's no doubt that even by the time we get to November and the college football playoff poll comes out, it's been influenced by what we're thinking we saw or we're supposed to see based on those early season polls. I've been saying for a couple of decades right now that, I don't want to see a poll until about week 5. By week 5, my broadcast partner, Gary Barnett, has always said, we don't know what a team is until they've played 5 games. He said that
Yeah.
for the 22 years I've known Gary, he has said that by week 5, now you know what everybody is. And so when those early season polls come out, it's all based on speculation. And especially, by the way, in this day and age with all the transfer movement, we really don't know what teams are. Now we can suspect that Ohio State's going to be good and Georgia's going to be good and schools like that. We understand that. But to really understand what everyone is 5 weeks in, I'm okay by 5 weeks in. You want to put a poll out? Fantastic. Okay. That puts you into October by that point in time. We start to know what you are. Then November, of course, we start getting the college football playoff poll. By then, I'm okay with that. But what has happened, it is, I was on a show this morning and I said this. I said, people don't understand what television networks and shoe companies and the amount of power they have in college athletics. They don't understand the input and the way things are manipulated by networks and shoe companies. It is enormous how much influence they have, and it's not necessarily a good thing overall for the sport. And so you think right now, and I know I'm on the western part of the country here, and around here in the Big 12 country, but the influence that the networks have with the SEC and the Big 10 is silly at different times. That, the conferences certainly are very good. Make no mistake about it. Are they that much better? Absolutely not. We see that every bowl season. And so those are the things I think we could take out of the equation. Now, is that going to happen? Absolutely not, because everyone wants to get clicks and put out their preseason polls and all that kind of stuff to make sure that they're getting the social media traffic they're all desiring. So it's not going to happen, but I think it would be a good thing if we took that out of the equation.
What aggravates me even more is when like Greg Sankey or Petit from the Big Ten, the commissioners, come out and say, well, each conference should have 6 automatic qualifiers. That's what aggravates me even more. I don't like it. I've said this before. I don't even like automatic qualifiers, Mark, for the college football playoff. I don't like it at all. Get rid of conference championship games because they don't mean anything anymore. It's just another way to bolster the eyes of the college football playoff committee. I say just play the season and then just let the committee rank them where they see them. And that should be the end all be all. I get tired of the little nitpicky politicking BS that I see week to week, and especially when we get to November.
Yep.
Because I always tell people, just wait, because in college football, when we get to November, all hell breaks loose for those last 4 weeks.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I'm with you in terms of I want to see the 12 best teams. I don't care where they come from. I don't care what conferences they're from. Give me the 12 best teams. Because here's the thing. In basketball, you can get a Cinderella story that can upset a number of teams in a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
On a given Saturday, you can have an upset. But in a tournament setting, you're not going to have a Cinderella story like that. The game doesn't lend itself to that kind of thing, right? So you may get, and if we're at 12 or if we expand to 16 at this point in time, there may be an upset, at some point. But it's not going to be a run all the way to a championship game like you'd see in college basketball with, George Mason going to the Final Four. And that's not going to happen. And so that's why I'm with you in regards to just give us the top 12 teams as it's set right now. Start really evaluating. Once we get to November 1st, you evaluate, you can put out your poll, whatever that looks like, whatever the parameters are that you're utilizing, to determine that. And then you put out the 12 best teams. But the politics, once again, right? You know this as well as I do. The politics and the money and the conferences are going to demand, especially the 2 out east and the Big 10 and the SEC, they're going to demand they get a certain number in there. And so it's just going to continue to be that. And at some point in time, I always think back to, for some of your older viewers, Pete Rozelle was 33 years old, went to the NFL and said, we got a problem here. We need everyone to be healthy and in this thing. So this we can build this league. And he sold him on that idea. At some point, someone's going to have to sell college football and that kind of concept so that we're all healthy. And if we break away and it's the top 60, 70 programs, so be it. But that organization, whatever it looks like, has got to be healthy, and you can't have the haves and have-nots. You got to have everyone on a relatively level playing field like the National Football League has it, and then it becomes exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mark Johnson, the voice of the Colorado Buffaloes. Mark, enjoy the last couple of games of the season, and you and your family have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you, my friend. Good being on with you.
All right. Let's play them out. I'm always pulling for Buffalo. If you've never been to a college football game at the University of Colorado in Boulder, I've never been, but I've been to the campus. It's an outstanding setting. It's an outstanding backdrop. Anywhere out there, Utah, anywhere out in Colorado, go to Wyoming, just great college backdrop. But good friend of the show. He's been on a couple times. Always knowledgeable. And again, I knew Colorado was going to take a step back, but I didn't know it would tail off like this, especially against Utah and Arizona. They got boat raced. So not good. Some top headlines from across the country in the world of sports today. Speaking of, Deion Sanders came out and said Colorado has the right man despite a 3-7 season. He wants more time, he said. Sanders told reporters today, "You've got the right man. I promise you, you do. And I'm going to prove that to you. Just give me an opportunity, a little more time, and I'm going to prove that to you." I hope, for Colorado's sake, that's the truth. And Bill McCarthy's not going to come. Bill McCartney, I think. My mind's going. God rest his soul. One of the most successful coaches in Colorado Buffalo's history. Won a national championship, for God's sakes, way back in the Big Eight. For Colorado fans, that's the truth. Looks like Giannis is out 1 to 2 weeks with a groin strain. Go figure. Or is it load management? Lane Kiffin was on the Pat McAfee show today and says that it is not true that he was given an ultimatum by Ole Miss, as was reported. Mark Schlabach. Kiffin said, "Yeah, that's absolutely not true. There's been no ultimatum, anything like that at all. And so I don't know where that came from. Like a lot of stuff that comes out there. Like I said, man, we're having a blast. I love it here." He has the Rebs vying for a college football playoff appearance. It'll be the first in Ole Miss's history. And again, you're going to hear all of it. He's headed to LSU or he's headed to Florida. Some of the other schools. If he goes to Florida, I would be pleasantly surprised. I don't like some of the quirky stuff that he does, some of the comments that he makes sometimes, but the man can run a football program. So we'll see what happens. My betting man inside me says that he's probably going to stay at Ole Miss. What else? Before I head out of here. The World Major League Baseball, New York Yankees outfielder Trent Grisham, Detroit Tigers infielder Gleyber Torres, Milwaukee Brewers pitcher Brandon Woodruff, and Chicago Cubs pitcher Shota Amanaga accepted their qualifying offers today, meaning they'll return to their respective teams in 2026 at salaries, ladies and gentlemen, of just a shade over $22 million. Belgium and Spain have also clinched World Cup spots, also on the last day of qualifying. Spain was held to a 2-2 home draw at Turkey, but took first place in Group E. Let's see. So there you have it. So the World Cup is set. Police have said that $200,000 was stolen from Shedeur Sanders' home during the game. Again, you're going to see more of this. Like I said, I think there's an organization or a cult criminal somewhere. They are targeting athletes' homes, obviously, when they're in playing the game. I think you're going to see more and more of this, unfortunately. Now, hopefully, they can get a handle on it. There's action on tonight in college football, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, Akron's up on. Oh, Bowling Green just kicked Akron just kicked the field goal. Bowling Green and Akron are tied 3-3. Northern Illinois is all over Western Michigan 10-0, and UMass is up in Ohio 7-0. Sometimes I'm a betting man, and I'll lay like 50 cents to win like I don't know $1. I took Bowling Green, Western Michigan, and Ohio, and they're all losing. That's the kind of luck when I'm betting. News and notes from around the world in the NFL. Rodgers doesn't need surgery, but his status is to be determined. Texans, like I said, quarterback C.J. Stroud, he's still in concussion protocol. He is not playing against the Bills. Abdul Carter, the Giants' first-round draft pick this year, said that he has missed practice. It was an honest mistake. Okay. Yesterday, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens bench for the opening drive. I don't know what that does. The specifications of said benching were not given. Cardinals running back DeMarcado, he has a high ankle sprain, which means he's probably not going to play this weekend. Let's go to the association, shall we? Scores from yesterday, Monday, November 17th. Cavaliers beat the Bucks 118-106. Leading scorer for the Bucks, Ryan Rollins with 24 points. For the Cavs, your leading scorer was Donovan Mitchell with 37. Pistons beat the just really bad Pacers team right now. For the Pacers, your leading scorer was Pascal Siakam with 29 points. Isaiah Jackson had 10 rebounds. For the Pistons, your leading scorer was Jalen Duren with 31 points. He added 15 rebounds. The 76ers beat the Clippers 110-108. For the Clippers, leading scorer was James Harden with 28. Avika Zubac, 13 boards. For the 76ers, your leading scorer was Tyrese Maxey with 39. Andre Drummond, have yourself a day on the boards with 18. Heat beat the Knicks 115-113. For the Knicks, the leading scorer was Miles McBride with 25. Cat added 15 rebounds. And Mitchell Robinson added 11 rebounds. For the Heat, leading scorer, Norman Powell. Khalil Ware added 14 boards. Raptors beat the Hornets 110-108. Leading scorer for the Hornets was Con Nuppel, 24 points. Ryan Kalkbrenner added 10 rebounds. And for the Raptors, Brandon Ingram was the leading scorer with 27 points. Emmanuel Quickly, 10 rebounds. The Timberwolves hammered the Mavericks 120-96. Cooper Flagg, 15 points. Brandon Williams, 15 points. Musa Cisse added 10 rebounds. For the Timberwolves, Nas Reed off the bench with 22 points, and he added 12 boards. Thunder beat the Pelicans 126-109. For the Thunder, your leading scorer was Chet Holmgren with 26 points. For the Pelicans, leading scorer Jeremiah Fears with 24. And the Bulls beat the Nuggets 130-127. For the Bulls, your leading scorer was Josh Giddey with 21. He had 14 boards. For the Nuggets, leading scorer, go figure, triple-double, Nikola Jokic, 36 points, 18 boards, 13 assists. The man is a machine. On the slate today, the Warriors right now losing to the Magic in the first 32-27. Celtics, Nets, Pistons at the Hawks, Grizz at the Spurs, Jazz at the Lakers, and the Suns at the Trailblazers. Oh. Let's go to the NHL. Scores from yesterday. Hurricanes beat the Bruins 3-1. The Sabres over the Oilers 5-1 in a surprise. Panthers over the Canucks 8-5. Capitals over the Kings 2-1. Final and a shootout. Blue Jacks over the Canadiens 4-3. Ducks over the Mammoth in overtime 3-2. On the slate tonight, in the first, the Blues and the Maple Leafs were tied 1 apiece. Kraken and the Wings 0-0, and also in the first, Lightning up on the Devils 1-0. Later on, Islanders at the Stars, Blue Jackets at the Jets, Flames at the Blackhawks, Rangers at the Golden Knights, Mammoth at the Sharks. Like I said, scores from today, World Cup qualifying. Austria and Bosnia drew 1 apiece. Belarus and Greece 0-0 draw. Again, Belgium hammered Liechtenstein 7-0. Bulgaria beat Georgia 2-1. Kosovo and Switzerland tied 1 apiece. Romania over San Marino 7-1. Scotland beat Denmark 4-2. Scotland qualified for their first World Cup since '98. They had extra time goals. Spain and Turkey tied 2-2 apiece. Sweden, Slovenia with 1-1 draw, and Wales hammered North Macedonia 7-1. Let's see what else. Oh, I will do this just for shits and giggles. Or will I? Have we played enough games? I was going to go over the men's college basketball and women's college basketball rankings, but they've only played 4 games so far. So it doesn't matter. I will, however, top 25 action tonight. Right now at halftime, number 17 Michigan all over my number 12 Wildcats, 44-27. In the first right now, number 18 North Carolina is up on Navy 28-20. Later on, number 21 Arkansas hosting Winthrop. 9 p.m. number 24 Kansas at number 5 Duke. And at 10:30 Sacramento State at number 19 UCLA. On the women's side, top 25 action tonight. In the second, Michigan's all over Binghamton, 55-19. In the second, number 20 Kentucky all over Purdue, 35-20. Later on, 8 p.m., number 13 Ole Miss at Memphis, and number 11 USC hosts Portland. So I think that's going to do it for this evening. Join me tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Early eating sports buffet with the. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I almost forgot, ladies and gentlemen. The college football playoff rankings should be coming out right about now. Can't believe I almost forgot. So let's see. I am looking for it as we speak. And I'm not seeing it. Give me just a second. Still looking for it. Or maybe they're not coming out on the day. I thought that they came out every Tuesday. Maybe I'm wrong. I could have swore today's Tuesday, right? Huh. You might know what? It might not be till 8 o'clock. That's what it is. So I will leave it there. Thanks to Mark Johnson for coming on. Always generous and kind with his time. Like I say at the end of every show, practice compassion, practice empathy, a passion for what you do. Hug somebody every once in a while. You might make someone's day. Love somebody, you love them. You might not get a second opportunity. And if you see somebody struggling, or you know somebody struggling, or you see somebody being bullied, ask what's wrong. How can you get them help? How can you help? You might not just be saving a life. You might be saving other people's lives as well. So, with all that being said, enjoy the night. Enjoy the sports activities. Only one thing left to do. That's for Danny Don to take me out. Thanks for tuning in.
Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night. The party's over. And tomorrow and next year starts the same old thing again.